Well, hey guys and gals, it's Jody Sharp from Superflies for Super Guys, and today I'm going to show you the little wool shrimp. Now this guy is cool. So I have this one here tied up in orange. The one we're going to tie today will be orange, but you can do these in multiple colors. So that's the orange one. And you can do them in a peach color, or you can do them in a brown color, a light tan brown color, to look like a little crayfish or a shrimp. So these are really cool. They're tied on a size 6 hook gap. So these are some really tiny little gold hooks that I bought off of Temu. I paid, I think it was $4 for 500 hooks, and they came in a bunch of different sizes. Now, Temu, of course, comes in. I'm just gonna say, and I'm not being racist here or nothing, Chinese sizes. So when they say size 5, they're like almost opposite to us. So like what would be a size 2 to us would be a very large bass hook. In their sizes, a size 2 is like a size 23 or 24 hook. So it's a bit reversed. So I'm just going to kind of comparatively use it by the way I know how to use it. Of course, I used my hook gauge, and it's forgive me, my hook gauge is a little worn out. I might need a new one of these days. But when I said it was a size 6, it was a size 6 hook gap. So it's a pretty small hook. It's a little bit shorter than the tip of my pinky finger, so it's a tiny little hook. So let's get into tying this. I'm gonna put on the thread that we're gonna need, and then I will tell you all the rest of the ingredients. So the first thread I'm gonna put on is a black nylon thread, and I basically use black nylon thread to make body lines in flies. So whenever I want a black body line, that is the color I use. So I'm going to tie it on. I'm going to tie it off at the end using the 2-finger hitch knot. So once around, you can adjust it where you want. I'm going to put 2 of those in there, and this way it's not going to unravel from the hook. And I'm going to put my hook, or my bobbin, off into my cradle, which you cannot see. But I do have a cool little cradle. Actually, you know what? I think I'll show you the cradle. This is my little cradle. You know when you buy clothes at Walmart and they give you those little hooks that they hang it, and then the clothes are hanging? This makes a perfect little cradle because it clips onto your vise stand, and you can just cradle your threads over it like that. And I've got this also. You've probably seen one of these. This works exactly the same way. Clips onto the vise, onto the stand of your vise, and then you can cradle your threads over. So very handy, very handy to have those. All right, so I'm going to put my thread over the cradle, and then I'm going to take my second thread, which is a clear nylon thread. You'll see in I'm going to say 90% of the flies I tie, that is the thread I use. I really like clear light nylon thread. It really blends in with all materials. You can color it up nicely if you want to add with a marker. You can color it up, and it'll blend in with anything, any kind of furs. It blends really nicely. So we're going to put down a pretty substantial layer, go back 2 or 3 times over it, and we're going to leave our thread right at the bend of the hook, and it can just lie straight down. Okay, so the first material you're going to need is wool. Now, of course, it's a wool shrimp, so you can pick any color wool you want. As I showed you, you can use, pink or peach or blue or brown. If you have brown, I'm just using orange today because it's a really hot color, and those perch and panfish and little bass and things, they just love this orange. So what you need to do is you need to take your cat or dog brush, and as you see on the end here, I have this end already brushed out. So I'm going to show you on this end. You just take 2 strands of wool, put them together, and with one finger you just push down and you just brush it out until all the strands are smooth, like so. Now, if you find that you've brushed it too much, you could use a 3rd strand of wool and just bulk it up a little bit if you should so feel that that is necessary. But I've had a lot of practice on this, so I don't usually need to do that. However, not all wools are made the same. Some are thinner and some are thicker. This pink or this orange is a pretty thick wool, so I only needed the 2. But if you use one that is a little thinner, you may need a 3rd or even possibly a 4th strand, but that's up to you. But the combing it out will be the same, the attaching it will be the same. So this is what the 2 strands looks like. Okay, the other thing, you have some of this extra wool on your comb, your brush, your cat brush or dog brush. Just take a bodkin, and you can just pick it up, and it'll be a little ball, and you can just have a ball of wool. Because I combed out the other one, I have a pretty good ball. This you are going to use as the dubbin for the body of your fly. So I will put that off to the side. I'll put my bodkin off to the side because I'm going to need that. All right, so the first step, and since I have this one nicely combed out, is you're going to take your wool and you're going to cut your wool that you combed out nice and straight at the end. And let me use a better pair of scissors. And use your nice scissors on these. Do not use plastic scissors. So if you have scissors that you cut plastics with, do not use them for cutting wools and soft feathers and materials, because you will wreck them. Okay, so just take your 2 fingers and smooth it out. It grosses me out when guys are like licking their fingers and they'll wet things with their mouth. That grosses me out completely. You'll never see me to do that on any fly, no matter how smooth I need to get it or wet it. That will just never happen. If you're one of those guys, that's fine. Do what you want, but I will not do that. That grosses me out, and especially since COVID and whatever, so that grosses me out. So I'll just smooth it out with my fingers, and I'll bring my thread up to below the eye of the hook, and I will decide how long I want the tail to be. And you don't want your tail to stick out like way out past the end. That's not necessary. You just want a little bit of a poofiness that shows that it's a tail. And then what you're going to do is you're going to pinch it down tight, and as you're working your thread up, You want that whole inside body to be tied down nice and tight. All right, so that's what you should have. So this is kind of your shrimp tail and your shrimp head. Now, what you want to do is take your scissors at the top and cut on an angle, and you're going to cut that to a point, and that's going to sort of give that a bit of shape, like the point, you know, a shrimp has a very pointed front end. All right, so that's what you're going to do. Now, the next thing we're going to add in is some Crystal Flash. So, I have some prepared here, which I'm not going to use that because I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a strand, one strand of Crystal Flash, as it comes in your bushel. And we're going to fold it in half and give it a little snip, and then we're going to take those 4 little ends and we're going to fold it in half again, and it is going to curl up on you a little bit, and that is okay. You can just uncurl it. You take your fingers into the or your scissors into the 2 loops, give it a cut, and then you have your 4 strands. And those are going to be like the little antennas of your shrimp. So you're going to place it onto your shrimp, and you want it to stick out a little bit past the end of the front of your wool, so the front of your fly. Not a terrible amount, but just a noticeable amount, so that it's noticeable. And then you're going to tie it down like so. All right. And then you can trim off the excess and put that off to the side, and that'll be enough to do your next fly with it. So you'll get 2 flies out of that. Okay. So the next thing you're going to do is make your mono eyes, and you can use 2 types of eyes, and this is completely up to you. If you want your fly to have a little bit of bulk, you can use the beads. So you can do mono eyes with beads, and it'll really make it stand out. Or you can just use just the mono eyes with no beads, like so. And you can color them any way you want. Now, I posted a video, the one just before this, about how to make mono eyes for shrimp, but I'm going to do it again. So you're going to need 2 pieces of mono. You can use clear, or if you have a colored mono, like this is a bluish black mono, which I am going to use, but you can do the same thing with a clear mono, and then you can just use a dab of nail polish and paint them. So what we do need is a pair of hemostats, and you're going to put your mono in your hemostats, leaving 3 millimeters of, well, actually it's probably about 5 millimeters. 5 millimeters of mono, and this is going to make the little bead on the top of the eye. So take a lighter. You can do this with a candle if you want, which will also color your eye black. So if you have it in a candle, it'll help to make the black on your eye. If you use clear mono, that will be helpful if you don't have a black mono. But I do have like a bluish black mono, so I'm going to do it with that. You take your lighter or your candle and you melt it, and you let it only go just before the eye, and then you give it a good shake before it gets to the metal on the hemostats, because if it gets there, it's destroyed. And once it's destroyed, you're just starting over. Let it sit for a couple of seconds, and voila, there's your first eye. Put that off to the side somewhere. take your second piece, leave about 5 millimeters, take your lighter or your torch, light it up. When it gets to just before the metal, stop it, shake it, and turn it upside down. So like turn it onto the side so that the ball hangs down. This will make it into a nice little ball eye shape. Sometimes if you went a little close and you leave it tipped up, it'll melt into the hemostat. So it's better to leave it down so that it'll melt in that shape. Okay, once it's dry, you have your two little eyes, and because I used a blue, I don't have to do anything to those eyes. If you don't use a black or blue and you want a colored eye, then you will just take a nail polish, dab the tips, let it dry, and then you can apply it in. All right, but if you check out my video on mono eyes, it'll show you that, painting the eyes, making the eyes, all the different eyes. So check out that video. Okay, so we're gonna measure how far up we want the eyes. We want the eyes in between where the bend of the hook is and the tip of the wool is. And the excess, you want to cut that off so that they're even. And then you're going to take one of those eyes and you're going to place it beside your hook, and you're going to work your way up to the front, and you're going to tie it right up to the bend of the hook, and then you're going to work your way down, and then you can just bend it off to the side a little bit, right? And this will give you the eyes so that, like a shrimp, the eyes will stick off the head. Okay, then you're going to take your second eye, you're going to measure it up to the first eye, and you're going to tie that in. And if either of these eyes get a little bit shifted, you can just, as you go, you can just adjust them, and then you can hold them and tie them in. So now you're going to do the same thing. You're going to go up to the gap of the hook, right up to the bend, and then you can fold it down, and then you can take your line or your thread, your clear nylon thread, and you can work your way back. Okay, and then just give it a bend to the side. So this will just give your eyes, you can adjust them to be looking the way they want. Now, if you notice that the eye of the hook is crowded now, you can take your two fingers and just give it a twist and push everything a little bit forward. All right. And you might have to use a bit of pressure because you've tied everything in pretty tight at this point. But as long as if you fold up the tail and as long as you can tie your thread in or your fish line, you are golden. Okay. Beautiful. Looking great, looking great. Now, because we've chosen orange, the next material you're going to need is an orange ribbon. Now you can go with a bit of darker orange or you can go with a lighter orange. Okay, for the really fluorescent orange, I'm going to go with the lighter orange. But you mix it up. You know what? Try one of each. Maybe you want to use red. That's up to you. That's however you want to make your shrimp. But the next material, you are going to need something metallic-y, something clear, something shiny that's going to make this shine. Again, I like to, for this particular fly, orange on orange. and I like to use the lighter orange ribbon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie the end down by the tail. You don't have to be super precise. So like go as far back as you can, but again, you don't necessarily want to crowd that eye of the hook. So you can be a millimeter or two up from there. But once you get it to catch in, you're just going to tie it up to the front. As far up to the bend as you can go, like so. And if you have a longer piece of ribbon, then you can just fold it over your vise. I just tie it around the knob, or like let it wrap around the knob of my vise, and it's out of the way. Okay, so now we're going to take our dubbin. So if you have orange dubbin, so I have the same, I've dubbed with my dubbin. I also have a video on how to make dubbin. So if you need to know how to make wool dubbin in a blender, that's there's a video on that. So you can take your orange dubbin. I'm going to use what I combed out when I combed out the bodies, which should be enough. But if it's not, I can always use some actual dubbin to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a dubbin noodle. So the difference between a dubbin loop and a dubbin noodle is a dubbin loop, you use a little tool, it makes a loop, you twist it off. That's a dubbin noodle. Dubbin loop. Blah, blah, blah. Get your tongue tied there. Dubbin loop. Dubbin noodle is just where you twist it on with your fingers, which you'll see me to do here. And you don't have to go, you can go medium thick. You don't have to go super thick. You don't have to go super light. All right, so this is a dubbin noodle, and basically you start to wrap your dubbin noodle around your shrimp. If it gets caught on the tip of the hook, you can just wrap it on again. If you need a little more, it's better to add less, because if you add less, you can always add more. If you add more, then you have to, and you want to take it off, it can be bothersome and painful. It's much easier to add it in little bits and take it off, and not have to take it off than having to take it off. It'll come off. I mean, it's not the end of the world. If it happens, it happens. And I'm just going to try and push that up just a little smidgen more, because I just don't like the eye of the hook to be crowded that way. Okay. So we've got our body dubbin on. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our orange ribbon and make sure that it's not curling up in the tip, because you want it to be flat, right? So you're going to take it and you're going to flatten it out. You're going to put it down to the end, and then you're going to tie it down, and you're going to take your scissors and you're going to cut it flush with the end of the tail. Okay, so it'll be flush with the end of the tail. If you have rounded scissors, which I do, you can always take your rounded scissors and just round it off just a little bit so that it just doesn't look so square. It looks a little more natural. All right. And then we are done with our clear thread. So we are going to do our 2-finger half hitches. Wrap around, slide it over. All right. Always behind the eye of the hook. All right. So as you see, that makes kind of where the tail joints off, like that. Okay. Then you can snip off your clear nylon thread. You're done with that. take your black nylon thread, which was sitting on your cradle, and you're going to wrap it over about 2 millimeters. All right, you will see, I'll show you here, you will see that little line, but once you comb out, we're going to comb this dubbin out with a dubbin brush, you will no longer see that. So don't freak out about that. And once you get it there at the 2 millimeter point, you are going to do 2 or 3, maybe 4, maybe 5 wraps. And you want to see that body line, see that black body line? And then you're going to repeat the same step. You're going to go down a couple of millimeters, and you're going to pull it up and do those body lines again. Again, 4 or 5. Then you're going to go in between the last little bit of, between the, where the tail is and there, and you're going to repeat that same step. Like so. Okay, so now you see your shrimp has some really nice visible body lines. And the last step, you're going to go where the eye and the tail meet, and you're going to make a really nice body line in there. All right. Again, this keeps sliding. It's going to slide a little bit. You want to pinch the materials gently but firmly, and just keep, when that happens, push them forward, because you really, 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 really want that eye available. But just remember, as you're pushing it forwards on your hook, be very careful, because you don't want to ram that hook right into your thumb or your finger, right? So you just want that, you want to push the materials forward just so that it frees it up, but you don't want to hurt yourself. So that's going to take some practice. I've made a lot of ouchies in my day, so it does happen. If you're afraid of hooks, don't become a fly fisherman. If you're afraid to get hooked, be safe. Be safe. Try and learn safety, good safety behavior. Try not to hurt yourself, but if you're afraid of hooks, don't become a fly fisherman, because you are at some point going to get hooked. So we did tie off our thing, and you could cut it off at this point, but I don't suggest it. So now I got these little barbecue brush cleaners. They're the little smallest ones you can get. I got mine at Princess Auto. I don't know if anybody's looking for them, where you would find them. I searched and searched and searched. It took me a while to find them, something like this. They came in a package of 3 like this for $2, which was spectacular. And they are a spectacular little dubbin brush. And basically, what you want to do, and if you don't have this, you can just use Velcro on a popsicle stick. It will do the same thing. You might have to work a little harder at it. For many years, that's what I used. I'm still going to use that, I'm sure. And the other good thing is these are very flexible bristles. Like, they're hard metal bristles, but they're flexible at the same time, so they don't affect your hook too much. So you can get underneath. You want to flip this fly over. You want to get right underneath, and you want to just get in there, and you're going to be mean to that wool. You're going to be mean. It's going to start pulling the dubbin out, as you can see. You wanted to pull that dubbin out, so you're just going to go, you're going to go all hard on it, and it's going to pull out those little fibers. And that's what you want, because that's going to make the little legs of your shrimp. So you're just going to keep working it. If you're using the Velcro method, it could take a little longer. All right, and as you can see, then your shrimp is going to get these little leggies. Once you get it like that, then you can just tie off one more little half hitch. Give it a bit of a snip, And what I like to do at this point is take my hemostats. I will take the fly out of the vise. I will clip my hemostats on to the eye of the hook. Make sure it's locked in. And this allows me to just get in there and give that thing a good brushing. And if it slides, you can just slide it back. It is going to slide a little bit, but it still gives me a much more, and you can also pinch the tail with your fingers, and it'll prevent it from sliding too much. And you can just comb that out, comb the front, right? You want to give that a nice firm combing so that it's all blends in there. And basically that's how your shrimp becomes a shrimp, like that. And you just keep combing it until you're happy with the look. You want those fibers to really be down to the side like little legs, so you want to give it that pattern. And the other thing is, you want, in this pattern, you want the hook to be a little buried in there. So because it's just wool, when that fish bites, there is nothing stopping it. So it'll push down and you will get a good solid hook set. But if you bury that hook a little bit in there and hide it in there, the fish aren't going to notice it all that much until they bite and it's too late. So that is pretty much, and then you can just soften your tail, put it back in the vise. It slid down again, I don't know why. This one's giving me trouble. They don't usually give me this much trouble. Always when I'm showing you guys, that's when I have the trouble. It's almost like the universe, all of you guys out there who are professional tiers, like me, who tie tons and tons and tons and tons and tons and tons and thousands of flies, you all know what I'm talking about. All you guys on your channels, when you're showing us all your other brothers at fly tie-in, that's when the trouble starts. But anyway, so that's just it. So you just shape it, and as you can see, if I turn it upside down, those threads got really blent in really nice, so it doesn't look like it doesn't belong. It looks exactly like it belongs. So that's pretty much it. The last thing I like to do is take some clear nail polish, some Sally Hansen's or Sinful Colors or whatever clear nail polish you have, and I just like to run it down the ribbon, and it will really bring out the shine of that ribbon. It's something about it just enhances the shine. Now, I will give you a warning about this nail polish. Some of the ribbons, so like, you know, this is gift wrap ribbon, what they get wrap gifts with. Some of the ribbons, if you put nail polish on it, especially the copper one, if you're not really gentle when you put it on, like if you rub it a little bit, the copperness of it will come off. It'll still shine, but it won't still look like copper. So you may or may not want to apply nail polish on the coppery colors. Sometimes some of the red colors do that. It depends on the ribbon you find and the ribbon you use. So bear that in mind when you're doing that. The other thing, for my brothers out there and sisters who use UV resin, you've noticed you've never seen me use it. It's not because I'm against it. It's just because it's so darn expensive. And when I'm tying flies, do I feel UV resin will make a fly last longer? Absolutely. Because I tie so many flies, I just don't feel I need to add UV resin. Like, I just don't, it's just for me not necessary. Not putting it down. If it was cheaper, you would most likely see me using it as well. So, but if you're one of those guys and gals out there who uses the UV resin instead of the nail polish, you could just put a coat of UV resin on, zap it with the light, the UV light, and it will harden it up a little bit. And it might add a little bit. I'm not sure if the UV resin adds a little bit of weight, which might help you if you're looking to get this shrimp really down fast. Every little bit helps. You can swap out the mono eyes for the mono bead eyes, which will give it just a little bit of a darker presence to give you an idea. And the glass bead will help it to come down a little bit further faster. So those are just some tips. Again, tie this up in any color you want. The pink really does it. The brown one really does it. And this orange one really does it. There are other shrimps I tie. There's other sparkle shrimps. There's some shrimps I tie with just Crystal Flash, which I'll show you guys in another video. And but yeah, these little shrimpy patterns do it. The brown, I guess they think it's a little crayfish or crawdad if you're in the States, a crayfish if you're here in Canada. Yeah, so that's the little wool shrimp, guys. I hope you enjoy it. Tie it up, fish it. Let me know how that works for you guys. Let me know where you're from too, like what kind of waters you're fishing them in, because I'd be really curious to see what kind of fish you're using them on. If you're an ice fisherman, I have an ice fishing buddy. He loves ice fishing. He takes out these little shrimp and he just rocks it ice fishing for perch and little panfish in the winter. So let me know, guys. Let me know. All right. Keep your fly on the water, tight lines, and fish on Canada or USA or wherever you're from. Okay. Bye.